Welcome to the CE Sponsor Update webinar. We'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Matt Hughes, Continuing Education Administrator.
And I'm Joanna Truitt, Manager for Continuing Education and Experience.
We anticipate our webinar today to be about 20 minutes. Before we get started, we have one housekeeping note. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please type it into the Q&A text box on the right-hand side of the screen. We will address all questions at the end of the presentation. During this webinar, we will review both the renewal schedule and terms and conditions for 2019, provide an update on CFP Board Ethics, and our quality partner announcement for 2018. Let's get started. The renewal process through the CE Sponsor Portal is easier than ever. Renewal instructions will be distributed via email the week of October 8th. Beginning Tuesday, October 16th, you will be able to renew your sponsorship as well as any program marked with the dates of current and future years through your online portal. Programs not renewed before December 31st will expire on December 31st. Sponsorships not renewed by January 15th will revert to a rejoin status. We will send out bi-weekly reminders to those who haven't renewed through January 31st. These emails are addressed to the main sponsor contact. If this information needs to be updated, please email us with the new contact information, including email address, phone number, and position to cesponsor@cfpboard.org. Sponsor fees for 2019 remain unchanged at $500 for for-profit organizations and $250 for non-for-profit organizations. There will be no change to program fees as well. Please remember that an active CE sponsorship is required for an organization to offer CFP Board Ethics CE. Some changes have been made to the CE sponsor terms and conditions. Within the next few days, the updated document will be available online. We will also send out a link in the instructions email you receive as well as subsequent correspondence. As we reviewed in the June newsletter, there are some changes in the CE policy for 2019. The most substantive is a reduction in the required number of assessment questions. For programs active in 2019, including those that are renewed, the final assessment requirement has been reduced from 10 questions per credit hour to a minimum of 5 questions per credit hour. We consider this a very positive change. Specifically, this will align the number of final assessment questions requirement with best practices for adult learning. It will encourage a focus on measuring learning by connecting the development of meaningful assessments to a program-specific learning objectives and level of complexity, potentially beyond the minimum requirement of 5 questions per credit hour. It will also encourage CE sponsors to develop and use assessment item banks for their programs to ensure variance in the assessments among participants. And hopefully this change will enhance the experience of CFP professionals who are serious about learning and staying ahead of trends. The implementation of this new policy will begin with the 2019 renewal process in October. For current programs renewed for 2019, the 5-question minimum could be implemented as early as October 16th when the renewal period opens. The new policy will cover any program submitted for 2019. We have also made adjustments to our definitions for level of complexity that you'll want to become familiar with. These adjustments include changing the label of Level 1 from Overview to Basic.
We will be including some best practices in our 2019 terms and conditions in an effort to assist all of our CE sponsors to adopt program planning techniques that will consistently produce higher quality programs. The first area of impact will be in the learning objectives. Program submissions will require clearly defined learning objectives that are both specific and measurable. We will also require more than one. Learning objectives like professional conduct and regulation, XXX, or bullish, bearish trade economy will no longer be accepted. When we run into these issues with the learning objectives, we will in fact send you a request for more information. That request for more information will be stated a bit differently, and it'll most likely include an attachment for how to write positive learning objectives. Again, our expectation will be that you'll send us new learning objectives for us to enter into the program. With self-study programs, we've struggled with a reliable means to enforce a policy that a final assessment not be accessible until the program work has been completed. As we move into 2019, this is one area where we'd like to be more proactive. Working with the CE work group, we will begin to identify reasonable and appropriate steps CE sponsors can take to ensure they are compliant with this requirement. While program evaluations will not be required for 2019, we view this as a best practice. We firmly believe that a well-written evaluation is a vehicle to receive valuable feedback from the program or about the program so that enhancements can be made. And last, we started to address what we feel should be adopted best practices for self-study content. Provisionally, we're evaluating the idea of promoting annual program reviews and a program refresh every 3 years. We will continue soliciting the feedback of the CE work group before determining final guidance in this area. As recently as last week, we've had several instances in the past few months of misrepresentation about programs accepted for CFP Board credit. CFP Board takes the integrity of its program and the trust of the communities we serve seriously. We want to reiterate that our contract is with you, not with an entity that may be working on your behalf. When an issue is brought to our attention, in each instance, a thorough investigation is done to determine the facts. This investigation will always include the CE sponsor, who, based on the outcome, might be asked to implement corrective measures to alleviate the issue or prevent it from happening in the future. We already have several CE sponsors offering the new Ethics CE curriculum. Effective Monday, October 1st, we will have made a full conversion to the new Ethics CE content. And just a reminder, any active CE sponsor is eligible to offer Ethics CE. To begin the registration process, you just need to go to the CFP page for CE sponsors and click on the CFP Board Ethics link under Continuing Education Providers. There, all the information you need is located in one of the 4 content pages. The learning objectives, which were updated in April, are clearly identified. Under Get Started, we have step-by-step instructions for you to be able to submit an ethics program request. Under the Ethics CE program requirements, we have detailed all of the requirements, particularly for self-study online, and how to access the program curriculum, as well as instructor eligibility. And finally, under the resources for Ethics CE sponsors, you'll find the links to the instructor training webinars, as well as links to previous webinar recordings that touched on the topic of Ethics CE, particularly self-study online courses. We have one more opportunity for instructor training in 2018. If you plan on offering Ethics CE Live, Your instructors will need to have attended one of the 3 instructor training webinars, the last to be offered next Tuesday, September 25th. While no dates have been set yet for 2019, we do plan on offering several instructor training webinars in the early part of the year. And again, just as a reminder, all current ethics programs expire on September 30th, and the new curriculum will be used by those CE sponsors that have submitted their program requests starting October 1st. We had a number of CE sponsors express interest in the Quality Partner Program this year. We are halfway through our reviews and are aiming to make an announcement on our newest members to this program the week of October 1st. So please be on the lookout for a press release identifying the newest quality partners in 2018.
We have reached the end of our formal presentation. As always, we are happy to take your questions on any topics covered here or hear what's on your mind.
So far, we're not seeing any questions. Actually, we just received one from Chelsea. How do I sign up for the ethics webinar? If you go to our webpage under Ethics CE, you'll see the link to the webinar registration. And after this webinar, we can go ahead and send you that link as well.
So Colleen asked, can you explain in more detail how the conversation or the conversion to different credits due to a change in exam questions will look upon renewal?
Actually, there'll be no conversion in CE. We've literally changed the formula. So the current formula is 10 questions per hour of continuing education. The new formula is a minimum of 5 questions per hour of CE. So again, we don't anticipate changing the formula. One of the things that I'd like to mention, and we'll send out a specific release on this later on, but the Council on Education has a recommendation it will consider at its November 1st meeting. And in that recommendation, we are asking them to give us flexibility to award a higher number of continuing education courses to programs that have been pre-approved for academic credit. So in other words, if in fact you're offering a course that is also available for college credit, before you were limited in the number of hours of CE that we could award for that program based on the number of assessment questions. That'll no longer be true. What we'll be doing in the future, and again, as soon as the resolution is passed, which we hope it will be passed, we'll send you some details. But moving into 2019, it would put us in a position to be able to assign CE based on the number of credit hours. We would maximize the number of credit hours for any particular course, for example, to 28 hours, which is the maximum number of general CE that's required every 2 years by the certificate.
Davida asked, does the new content include the new standards that are effective October 1st, 2019?
We're making the assumption that you're talking about the new content for Ethics CE. Yes, absolutely. We really wanted to get ahead of the curve on this with the idea that we could start a year in advance of the new code and standards going effective or becoming effective on October 1st. So the new ethics content, which CFP Board actually has pulled together, does in fact follow the new code and standard.
Frank asked, will the ethics course continue to have 10 questions per credit hour in 2019?
Frank, you asked another really good question. The work group that we put together, we had a discussion about what would be the appropriate number of questions for Ethics CE. We had determined a while ago that 40 questions for a 2-hour course was way too many. So we did reduce it to 20 questions with the idea that we'd be in line with our requirement of 10 questions per CE hour. As we knew, or we were pretty sure that a change in the number of required questions was on the horizon, we had a discussion about it. And again, I think for now, particularly this first go-around, we're going to keep the number of questions for the Ethics CE assessment at 20. We might revisit that when we go to version 2 of the course, which would be in January 1st, 2021. Seems really long time from now, but like I said, we'll review that when we go to version 2 of the course. For right now, it'll stay at 20 questions. Well, we don't see any additional questions. We did promise you that this would be brief, a very brief update. And as always, we thank you for your participation. A recording of this webinar will be posted online, most likely the week of October 1st. Look for our thank you email, which we will send out within the next few days. It'll include a link to the 2019 terms and conditions, as well as the online renewal schedule. We did have one last question coming in, and again, it's from Colleen, who asks, if someone completes an expired Code of Ethics after 9/30, will they get general CE credit for the course? The response is that the system won't recognize that particular program because, in fact, it's met its expiration date. So we have asked all of our sponsors offering Ethics CE to ensure that one of two things happen. One, that access to the program, if it's not completed by 9/30, is no longer available to those who have registered for it, or B, if the new course is available, that these individuals be rolled right into the new course as of October 1st. So again, any Code of Ethics program not completed by 9/30 will not be recognized by the system. Well, if there are any additional questions out there that you didn't have an opportunity to ask, you know where to find us, CE sponsor at cfpboard.org. And we want to say again, thank you for everything that you do for our CE certificates. And we want to also just let you know that we look forward to working with you in the coming months. This concludes the September CE sponsor webinar.